what's available and what we can use for from Google when it comes to the artificial intelligence tools. So there's a couple of things to keep in mind. We do have sort of a foundation that we can build upon, and that's the Gemini app. So when I say Gemini, we can think about the large language models. So you might be familiar with all the new artificial intelligence tools out there. So ChatGPT is one of the big ones that sort of paved the way and it became really popular. Then there's Claude, there's Perplexity, there's Grok, there's many different models and chatbots that you can use to interact with these models. So this is what Gemini does, or the Gemini app does. It allows us to have those chat conversations with Gemini, with the large language model, and we can think about Gemini as our sort of assistant that can help us with different tasks that we might need to be working on. So as I said, that's something that you do have access to for free with the Google Workspace for Education account, and we'll have a look at it. Then we will also be looking at Notebook LM, and Notebook LM is basically a tool that is also leveraging Gemini to help us analyze documents and sources that we choose. So this is what's available, as I said, at the foundation level. On top of this, there is also a paid upgrade, what's called the Gemini Education licenses, and I'll give you a brief overview of what's available in the paid upgrade as well, just in case if this is something that would be an option for you, and if you think that this would be something that would be useful for your school. So let's start with the basics and let's have a look at the introduction to the Gemini app. And I will spend most of the time actually doing demos and showing you Gemini in action rather than spending time on the slides. I can share these materials with you after as well, so you can definitely come back and revisit them. So what's the story with the Gemini app? As I said, this would be the starting point. This is where we can interact with Gemini directly by chatting, and we can ask it for help for different tasks that we might need help with. And there's a couple of important things to keep in mind though when we actually want to use Gemini. So just some basic information and things to keep in mind when you actually use the Gemini app on a school issued account. You do have added data protection. So that's a really important thing for schools. You know that you have that extra protection layer when it comes to school data, as long as you use Gemini on a school issued account. Keep in mind, if you choose to use it on a personal Gmail, that's a different story. So that has slightly different terms of use than what you would have with a school account. It is available in many different languages, so it works really well also with Arabic, so that's something to keep in mind as well, also when you need to generate materials maybe for your students as well. Here are just some really quick examples of who could benefit from actually using Gemini, and here it really depends on what role we might be playing, and it really depends on basically what task we have at hand. Gemini can help with anything from generating resources for lesson planning or curriculum outlines or creating presentations, or let's say I am preparing a workshop for my colleagues and I want to prepare some materials for that. Gemini can help with that. Or let's say I'm part of the management team of the school and I have a leadership role, so I might need to work on writing policies or writing official communication to for the school community or for parents or for the Ministry of Education, depending on what I'm working on. All of these tasks Gemini can help with. Of course, for teachers, educators, this is where we have a lot of options in terms of generating lesson plans, in terms of giving feedback to students, in terms of brainstorming, in terms of maybe improving some materials that we already have access to. So all of these are just some really quick examples. We can dive into lots of different other examples. But as I said, what I do want to do is to actually show you Gemini in action. Before we dive into that though, just a quick important intro to actually using Gemini and writing instructions for Gemini. So think about it this way. Yes, Mahmoud, I see that you have your hand raised.
Yeah, let's highlight something. You are talking about Gemini education, not the personal Gemini.
Yes.
Right?
It would be, I mean, you would use them in both of them. You would use them in the same way when it comes to the technical part of using them. But Gemini on a school issued account does have the added data protection. So that's one advantage for using it on a school account. One thing that I do want to clarify before we dive into using Gemini and showcasing it in action, this is a really important part of using any of the AI tools, artificial intelligence tools out there. It's really important to write good instructions so we can actually get good results produced by whatever tool we would be using. In this case, of course, I'm referring to Gemini. And this is what's called prompt engineering. So this is sort of the official name for the input or the way you phrase instructions for Gemini, or as I said, for any AI chatbot. And there's lots of different frameworks you could use. I just want to give an example of a framework here. So if you want to start exploring using Gemini, you can keep this framework in mind when you actually ask Gemini for help. So what are some of the things we should add as components to any request you make to Gemini? There's a couple of important components. One of them would be, ideally, I would tell it what role I want it to play. So think about it in this way. When you go to one of your colleagues and you ask them for help with a lesson plan or drafting an email or anything related to your school activity, your colleagues already know quite a lot about you. So they know what your position is, they know something about your students, they know what curriculum you're using in the school, they know the communication style of the school, and so on and so forth. Gemini doesn't know all of these things. So that's why we need to give it enough information so that it can tailor the output to match our needs. So always think about telling it what persona or what role it should play. So this could be, if you're planning lessons, for example, it could be a teacher. If you're writing emails to parents, it could be an expert communicator, and so on and so forth. The second main component would be the task. So this is where I would tell Gemini what I need help with. And this would be, of course, an action verb. The context, this is where I could give it some more information. Like, for example, if I'm lesson planning, I could give it some information about my context, what curriculum am I using, what grade am I teaching, how long are my lessons, what resources I have access to, what needs my students have. I might have some students that are struggling with the language, for example, if I'm teaching in a certain language. Or I met some students that might need some extra support. All of these things I can add as extra information for Gemini to include in the produced outcome. And then the format, this is also an optional component looking at